the microphone is actually working. So give me a minute. Okay, it does sound like it's working. Okay, good. Okay. So if you're wondering why I'm wearing a mask, I have really bad allergies that are going on right now, so I may just start sneezing randomly out of nowhere. So tonight's topic is the Bildungsroman. It's a fun word to say. It's basically a type of coming of age novel. All Bildungsromans are coming of age novels. Not every coming of age novel is a Bildungsroman, but like the differences are kind of fuzzy. So chose to do this topic because we're going back to school. In fact, the kids in the district that we are in are currently back in school already. So, before we get going, I just have some fun things that are going on at the library that you may all be interested in. My writing friends. There we go. I don't know which way the camera is going to show me. So, as you can see from next to me, we are having a writing workshop. That is the uh, author, Caitlin McShay Jones, or McShea Jones. Sorry, I'm not sure, but K.A. McShea is the author name. And that is going to be on August 29th. We do ask that if you want to attend, please register. It's not required, but it will help us know how much seating we need to prepare for and have spots available for writing because there will be writing that happens during this workshop. Okay, and now for some other brief announcements before we begin. Coming up on Monday, I'm going to be leading an adult D&D game. It's primarily going to be for those who have never played D&D before, so it's going to just be very brief. Probably only one combat encounter, some role playing, explaining what all the different stats are and all the different dice, what they're for. I have pre-made characters for this. So if you're interested, it's going to be on Monday, August 17th from 5 to 7, or possibly a little bit over, because if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons, you know how combat can sometimes take a while. Also, on the 19th, that's next week, we are starting our newest teen program that is the Teen Listening Lab. We're a low stakes music genre club will discuss the history of pop culture and listen to the newest hits. That is on August 19th, which is a Tuesday. Tuesday. I'm not very good at my days of the week, okay? Tuesday at 4 p.m. It is open for preteens and teens. It's actually open to all ages. We list it as a preteen and teen program. We're also, speaking of school children, and I need to pull that one in front of that one so you guys can see. Okay, this is our trading card game that we are going to be doing. It's called Reading Dragons. It was started by another library, and now it is something that we are going to be doing for every so much time that the kids read. They get a pack of these trading cards, and then they can play a game that amounts to rock paper scissors with cards: fire beating grass, grass beating water, water beating fire. So without any further ado, I am going to switch us over. I pre-recorded this lecture. It just helps so I can keep track of everything that's going on in the chats on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook. So I am in the chats. Drop your questions down there, and I am going to get you going. The Bildungsroman, aka the coming of age novel. So we will be getting started with this. As I said before I started this is a pre recorded. I am watching, so if you have any questions, please post them in the chats. So let's get started on our August 2026 Writing Club meeting. Now, what is a Bildungsroman? It is a novel about the moral and psychological growth of the main character. Basically, it's growing up. There's no easier way to explain it. A coming of age novel is basically the characters going from being a child to being an adult of some kind, or maybe just moving from childhood phase into a more adult phase. Examples: I made a bunch of these, or I looked up a bunch of these, and some of them you might be like, huh, there's no way that this could be a coming of age novel, like Gurren Lagann. How is that a coming of age novel? Well, you have a character who starts off as a child beneath the ground, not believing in himself or anyone else, and then as the story goes, he becomes more mature. We will be breaking these down, or at least some of them, a bit later on. Some of them are very well known. For instance, To Kill a Mockingbird is quite often the first time kids learn the word Bildungsroman or Bildungsroman. It's pronounced both ways. The Giver, Little House on the Prairie, Kiki's Delivery Service is a fun one. But yeah, it's basically growing up and leaving behind childish notions. So, a Bildungsroman follows not a specific path, but it has sections that are usually happen in between each one. So you're going to have the catalyst. This is with the story beginning with a loss or dissatisfaction that forces the young, inexperienced protagonist to leave home. I'm going to put that in quotes. It's going to be your inciting, if you're watching my plot video, this is your inciting incident. This is the thing that starts the kid off realizing that the world is not all sunshine and daisies. Then you have the journey. This is going to be most of your novel. This is going to be the protagonist, the child, facing trials, making mistakes, and struggling against social norms or societal norms. If it's a very social book, this can also be interspersed with action. In the case of Gurren Lagann, all of the fights. But at the core of it, it is a kid growing up and finding his place in the world. They meet mentors and they may face antagonists who challenge their worldview. I am completely blanking on that series. What is it called? Sorry, my brain just doesn't remember it very well. It's... What is it called? What is it called? Doraemon. No? No, that's not it. Arguably, you could argue that Beastars is a whole... If you watch anime, Beastars is a manga / anime where all of the characters are going through their coming of age because, it is focusing on them as young teenagers growing into adulthood, and that is basically the fundamentals of a Bildungsroman. Let me find some more. Okay, if anyone here is a fan of the Fate series, Fate Zero with Waver Velvet, is very much his part of the story is very much a coming of age story that counts for this. He goes from being very self hating, very meek, to growing into a person with confidence. Nearly anything written by Judy Blume. Funny enough, half of the novel of it is a coming of age novel for the Losers Club. Yes, there is the cosmic horror of facing down Pennywise, but it's also the kids learning to stand up to the ones that have abusive parents or overbearing parents. It's learning to stand up for themselves, stand up against their bullies. And then there's the whole Beverly plotline, which I'm not going to get into here because that would get you flagged. There's also, if anyone has seen the movie Stand By Me, that is based off of the Stephen King novel or short story, The Body. And it is a coming of age story of a group of kids learning, bonding, and learning to stand up to their bullies over the summer. Admittedly, while they are searching for the corpse of a missing kid, because it is Stephen King. Another good place to look for more of them, more examples of this, is look at the Newbery Medal Award winners. A good portion of them are going to be coming of age stories or Bildungsromans. Chronicles of not the Chronicles of Narnia. Oh, what is that one? Harry Potter. Any school series where you have a student, where you're following a student along, is probably going to have shades of this as well. Okay, let's move on to the next part. The epiphany. This is going to be your climax. This is going to be when the character experiences a moment of clarity, recognizing their own place in the world and their values. This is where the kids stand up to the bully, or that's the one that's just coming to mind because we were just discussing all of those. Coming into your own power. Harry Potter walking to his own death. Percy Jackson leading the kids of the demigods of Camp Half-Blood in the war. We'll get into more of these. I just don't want to hit on the ones that I've already got written down to cover in just a few slides. And then you're going to get the... Is it called denouement? Yeah, the denouement. This is what happens right after the climax and is a part of the falling action. It helps tie up the ends. Basically, that is when they have accepted their role in society, or they might reject their role in society. Those also happen. And they trade in their idealism for adult wisdom. Basically, they are grown up, and they are now having to make these decisions that grown ups would have to make. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Now I'm going to break some of them down. This is going to be a good portion of today's topic. So I'm going to start with the one that most of us in the US are familiar with. Most of us are going to read this sometime in high school and have to do this breakdown. So, To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. To give a just real basic plot summary, Scout and her brother are the children of a defense attorney. Defense attorney is defending Tom Robinson, an African American man who is accused of doing very bad things. Sorry, I have to kind of censor myself due to moderation on all these platforms. I refuse to use certain words, but basically, he did. There's an alleging that this Tom Robinson did very bad things to a white woman, and that is the main. That's the main plot. There's a bunch of like littler plots about other members of the community and how the community is reacting to this, how the community is reacting to each other. And spoiler alert, Tom Robinson is found guilty even though a ton of the evidence is proving that he didn't do this. Jury doesn't care, it's all white men. So they say he's guilty, he goes to jail, he is killed in an escape. And on Halloween, Scout and her brother are trick or treating when they are attacked by the father of the white girl who was attacked, I'm putting that in air quotes, by Tom Robinson. And instead he is killed by Boo Radley, who's a very introverted person who has a bunch of rumors about him doing something like killing his father that happened to save Scout and her brother. Okay, so now you know the basic plot. So we're going to start off with Scout, who is our protagonist. She begins the novel as a tomboy who lacks social filters. She relies on her fists to solve her problems and unquestioningly accepts the rigid, prejudiced hierarchies of her hometown of Macomb, Alabama. The catalyst slash the journey is going to be the Atticus Finch defending Tom Robinson, which is not a popular opinion in the community. Then you also get to see Scout reacting to how the community is reacting to the trial, as well as how the community. She starts noticing how the community treats other people. For instance, there's a drunkard in town, putting quotes around it because it's revealed later on that he goes around drinking out of a brown paper sack, which usually means there's alcohol in the drink that he's drinking out of. It's supposed to be. It's actually just, I do believe, juice or Coke or something like that. I don't remember. It's a non-alcoholic liquid. And he has to act like a drunkard for people to not exactly leave him alone, but to not give him even more grief over having an African American wife and having children with her and living with her in the African American section of town. So that was a big no-no back then. All the segregation, everything, that was a big no-no societally. So he has to act the drunkard in order to even be somewhat acceptable by the white people, by the community. Then there is Boo Radley. Like I said, there's rumors all around about him doing stuff like he killed his father or stabbed his father back when he was a child. He's considered the weird eccentric guy who never leaves his house, basically. The kids make it like a dare to like go up on his porch or go into his backyard, stuff like, and then run away. And then there's poor Mrs. DuBose. She is suffering from a terminal illness, and she is a rather, not that the kids know that until after she passes, but she's very, very acerbic person. She does not filter herself in what she thinks about people, and Scout's brother ends up doing something I don't quite remember what it is, but he has to instead read to her every day. That's what Atticus makes him do. And after she passes, Atticus tells them both that Mrs. DuBose had a terminal illness, and she did not want to take morphine because she had stopped taking morphine because she wanted to die on her terms. And that's why she was so mean, is because she was in so much pain. But she is treated as like a gossiping woman, or it's that one neighbor no one likes. We call them Karens today. And that's why she was acting like that, was because she was in so much pain, but she wanted to die on her terms. So Scout's journey is seeing this and realizing that it's not right. The epiphany part, the climax of this all, is the guilty verdict against Tom Robinson. This is where her brother is like, oh yeah, they'll have to acquit him because all the evidence is showing he didn't do it, and then the jury finds him guilty, and this just shatters her brother. She could tell it was coming. If I do remember correctly, she was like, I don't think it's going to go that way. So this is where you start seeing that she is realizing that it's not right what her community is doing. What her community, how the prejudice in her community is. She is the realization of this. And then there's a spike when there's a spike in the plot when with the attempted murder of two children, where Boo Radley comes out of his house and kills. I'm sorry, I'm horrible with remembering names. Kills the father of the white girl who was. There's some implications that he did all the damage that was being claimed that Tom Robinson had done. Just putting that out there. And at the end, Scout is no longer afraid of Boo Radley, and she actually feels some sympathy for him and some understanding of where he is coming from. So that is Scout's growing up journey. Now we'll go on to another one, Kiki's Delivery Service. Quick explanation of the plot before we get going in case you don't know Kiki's Delivery Service. Again, warning, spoilers. So witches leave home at 13, and they go off for a year to live away from the home. It's basic, and they do a job. It could be anything from making potions, doing fortunes. So we have Kiki. Kiki leaves home. She doesn't feel she's good enough at magic for most things, but she is really good at flying, or she enjoys flying the most. So she sets up a delivery service. She meets people, she makes friends, all that, and she works and works and works. And eventually she loses the ability to fly. So now she's devastated because her magic is no longer working. She can't fly, she can't do this job. And she goes through a whole realization, and she gets the ability to fly again when she saves one of her friends from who was building a flying machine, and she saves him from dying. So that's the basics of Kiki's Delivery Service. Go watch it. It's a wonderful Studio Ghibli film. So, Catalyst is Kiki leaving home at 13, as all witches do. So that is how this whole thing starts. Her journey is the whole setting up a job, managing her finances for the first time. She's making friends with people she's not grown up around. She's having to learn how to overcome loneliness as she's living in. I do believe she just takes a room and board in a house. Like, she pays the owner and she has a room in the house. Kind of flat share kind of deal. Flop house kind of deal. She's running her own business. She has to manage her finances. She has to manage her schedule. Her climax is the loss of her magic. Or it can also be, the climax can also be another part. I'll explain this in a bit, but the loss of her magic kicks off her realization for the maturity part. The loss of her magic is an allegory for burnout. You have to understand a lot of Studio Ghibli films. A lot of people like to say that the things that happen into them are allegories for things in Miyazaki's life. That could be true. I don't know, but Kiki's delivery service is a good metaphor for a creative person going through life and suffering burnout. She's no longer able to use her magic. She can't fly. She has to deal with this. She has to learn how to take a step back and take care of herself. And that is when she gets her magic back. That is her growth. And in doing so, she gets her magic back just in time to save her friend's life from dying from testing out his flying machine. And then the rest of the film, which is a very short amount, is Kiki continuing her delivery service, but now having a better job-life balance. So, and her being much more happy than when she was just working, maybe making some time for friends and the like, but very much of it was working. So that is Kiki's delivery service, the breakdown of it. Okay, next one, video game this time. Life is Strange. If you don't know this one, I'm going to give a very broad explanation because this is a video game with a bunch of different endings depending on what you do. So you have Max, who is going back to a school that she hasn't been to in a long time. And there is a shooting. She goes in the bathroom, and another girl comes in the bathroom, gets accosted by a guy. There's arguing and threats, and the guy shoots this girl who is her friend. You know what? I'm going to actually look up names for this one because it is so complicated. Alright. So you have Max, who is our protagonist, and then you have her friend, Chloe. So Chloe is the one who got shot. And that's Max's former best friend. There's a whole thing with a missing, disappeared girl. So Chloe... Yeah, so Chloe confronts a guy and gets shot for it. Max discovers she has the ability to turn back time. And the rest of this is trying to solve the mystery of what happened to Rachel while Max is continuously using her power, and strange things start happening across the town of Arcadia Bay. Things like birds dying, the weather's getting weird. And by the end of it, you learn every time Max is using her power, it ends up causing basically the butterfly effect. It ends up creating this giant storm that is going to destroy Arcadia Bay unless Max makes a decision to go back to the first time she uses her power to save Chloe and doesn't use it and thus saves the whole town, but her friend Chloe will die, or she doesn't, and the town of Arcadia Bay will be destroyed, but Chloe will live. So that's the basic story. It's a bit more complicated than that, but if you want to know more about it, go play the game or watch a Let's Play on YouTube. It's a very good story. So the catalyst is Max's disillusionment with the school. There's a lot of cliques. There's a lot of favoritism going on with the teachers. There's the whole mystery about this girl Rachel who disappeared. And then there is the shooting and Max discovering her power. So that is the catalyst for this whole thing. So Max is learning to use her powers, and she keeps trying to save and help people, but things can go sideways very fast. There are some gnarly endings. It just seems like the whole universe is out to kill Chloe, which you eventually find out, yes, that is what is happening. I think Final Destination weird deaths, kind of, with some of the ways Chloe dies, like a ricocheted bullet. Ricochet that she shoots a bullet, she shoots a gun in a scrapyard, and the bullet immediately ricochets back and kills Chloe. Or Chloe shoots the gun and it ricochets back and kills her. It's some of the way she dies is just you you can tell the world is out to kill Chloe. So they end up solving this whole mystery about Rachel, about what happened to her, how the teachers and students are involved, all that kind of stuff. All the meanwhile, there's the weird events happening. Like I said, there's birds falling out of the sky. There is all these other things that happen. And Max is having to make decisions. She's having to grow up and see these people who are supposed to be there to help and provide for her are not. The teachers can't be trusted. People don't believe her. She has to make friends and end up saying the wrong thing and ends up making an enemy instead. Yes, she can go back in time and stop it from happening, but it still happens. And she starts, there's the whole maturity and growing, and then we come to the climax or the epiphany of the revelation that her powers are causing an apocalyptic storm that threatened to destroy Arcadia Bay, and she is given the choice, or the player is given the choice, playing as Max. The girls discover that Max's power is causing the storm, and Max is given the choice. Are you going to doom the entire town just to save your friend? Or will you go back in time, keep all of this from happening, but in doing so, your best friend, who you've just reunited with and spent all of this time with, growing with, learning with, having fun with, solving this mystery with, will die without ever knowing any of this? No matter what choice the player makes, Max has to live with what she chooses and keep on. And there is the moving on from the past and moving on to the uncertain future. The time travel mechanic in this is pictures. She carries around a Polaroid camera, or she carries around a camera and takes a bunch of pictures, and there is the whole idyllic past in those pictures and going back to that versus the keeping on going ahead. And that is what the ultimate final decision does, is she has to leave the past behind and has to start moving forward for her future. Alright, another video game example. I do believe this is my last one. No, I have a writing breakdown after this. Legend of Zelda, the Ocarina of Time. I just put down Ocarina of Time because most people who know will know what I am talking about. So this one actually, I think, has two almost parallel narratives of growing up in it. You're going to get the early game growing up of young Link, and then the latter game young Link to adult Link or teen Link. So I will cover both of these stories because it is like it's like a coming of age within a coming of age. So if you don't know the story of The Legend of Zelda, especially Ocarina of Time, I'm not going to break it down because it is just too long. Just know Ganondorf is an evil guy who is trying to take over the Kingdom of Hyrule. There's a princess named Zelda, which is where this all gets its name from, and she opposes him. And Link is basically a warrior defending who defeats Ganondorf. It's a long story. There's a bunch of goddesses involved. There's magical artifacts. Basically, Link has to just kill Ganondorf. There is, as I'm explaining the second one, the second story, it'll make more sense. So, for Young Link lives in the Kokiri forest, which has the Kokiri, who are a race of eternal children. They do not age. Link, however, is not a Kokiri, he is a Hylian, people from outside of the Kokiri forest, and he does age. But he has grown up in the Kokiri forest, and he is. The Kokiri all have like companion fairies, all of them except for Link. Well, one day, the Great Deku Tree, who is the protector of the Kokiri, calls Link to him. He's a giant. He's a giant tree. So the Great Deku Tree calls Link to him. Turns out the Great Deku Tree is dying and is being attacked from within, and asks Link to defeat the monster that is inside of him. So Link does. He goes in. He learns how to use items. He learns how to use a sword. He does everything he can. He defeats the monster. He I don't think he can even be considered a child anymore after all of the fighting and killing that he has done. Because you do kill the monsters. Monsters that can talk. And the Great Deku Tree dies right in front of Link. Young Link. And then Link is told to seek out the royal family of Hyrule. So that means he has to leave the forest. And there is the whole metaphor of leaving the forest as leaving childhood behind. Did not mean to do that. Hit the thing by accident. So that is the first like small coming of age story within Ocarina of Time. The second half can be seen as so there are gems that Link has to get and brings them back to this Temple of Light. Well, when he does that, Ganondorf attacks Hyrule Castle. Zelda is made off with by her nursemaid slash ninja guardian Impa. And basically, Hyrule falls to Ganondorf. So Link, in a last-ditch effort to stop this from happening, goes and takes these gems that he's been collecting to the Temple of Light and sets them in and draws the Master Sword, which you can see in this picture here. Well, that opens the Sacred Realm, and that lets Ganondorf in. It also locks Link in for years. Link goes from being a child to being a young teen slash adult. So there's that whole thing. So then it continues with a journey around Hyrule again to get more magical MacGuffins, to get more power, to defeat Ganondorf, who is now basically you have kind of like a Fisher Kingdom going on, where evil king in power means the whole land is evil and decaying. There's reanimated dead bodies everywhere in Hyrule Castletown. It's a mess. So Link is journeying around Hyrule to fix this. He is no longer looking like a child. However, I would argue that growing up in the Sacred Realm, it seems to happen like that in the story. So, could he be a older person with a child's mind? Could he have matured? He didn't mature in the Sacred Realm, is what I'm saying. So the remainder of the story is going around and helping people, but there's also the growing, the learning of loss. How can I put this more better? Sorry, it's just really hard to put down. There's some really good articles out there explaining it. But yeah, it's 7 years. You were sealed away for 7 years in the Sacred Realm. Ganondorf's taken over. all manner of evil is taken root underneath his control. Places that were once very nice are now in ruins, with undead all around. Lake Hylia's dried up. Kakariko village is razed to the ground. It's an apocalypse. It's a dystopia versus the relatively nice that you have. And then you are taken back to the sacred forest, aka the forest of Kokiri, where Link grew up, and everything has changed. This is where we start getting the narrative goes from, oh, happy, fun childhood, to dealing with all of these places that Link is seeing now in this devastation compared to the idyllic image he has of them in childhood, which he does get the ability to travel back and forth in time, forward and backward, Ocarina of Time. That it's a whole thing with memory and growing from those memories and how time doesn't change. Time happens to everyone, and growing up will happen to everyone. And then comes the finale. You defeat the evil king, Ganondorf himself. And the journey to Ganon, you go through the tower, which this is can be seen as a symbology of growing up, gaining knowledge. You know, we get the whole ivory tower ideal. This is people growing up. And this is and then Navi, who has been with you since the beginning. I'll get more on Navi in just a bit. Cannot help you in this final fight against Ganondorf, saying that because of the waves of darkness you can't get close. Navi, who is basically a symbol of innocence and childhood, has to be left behind for this fight. Eventually, Navi does come back to aid you. But through the whole play of the gameplay, you gain and lose certain abilities that you have that can be seen as a metaphor for growing up and leaving the past behind, leaving the childhood behind. Ganondorf is eventually defeated, the world is restored. And Link is sent back in time into his child body for the final time. The Master Sword is resheathed, Ganondorf is defeated, and Navi leaves you. As you exit the temple, Navi flies away. Navi in Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is a symbol of childhood and innocence that Link no longer has. And then you have the game that comes after is Majora's Mask, which deals with the stages of grief. There are multiple videos out there about people explaining that. I would highly recommend go seeing them. I'd recommend go seeing some people who break this down a bit better than I have here. It's a bit confusing, or can be a bit confusing. Sorry if I'm not good at explaining it, but Link's entire journey is about growing up and leaving the past behind, as well as the feelings of nostalgia for a more innocent and simpler time. That is one of the themes behind A Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Alright, so what does this mean for writing a coming of age story? Well, you can break it down. I talked about beat sheets in earlier videos. They should still be up so you can still see them. You're going to introduce a character that's probably all wide-eyed, innocent, and is a child, and maybe they've had some hardships in life, but nothing that could rock their world. Then you'll introduce the catalyst. This is your inciting incident. This is what kicks everything off. This is, oh, you're a wizard, or oh, you're the child of Poseidon, or you're attacked by a monster because you're a child of Poseidon. It's been a while since I've read Percy Jackson. These kind of things. Or, oh, your father is now defending a African American man in 1950s era southern deep south United States. You're now the town pariah. Your family is. These kinds of things. Then you're going to have the journey. The journey is going to be made up of three primary things: lessons, which I did put down as the second one on here, it should be the first. Mentors, mentors who will help teach these lessons, maybe not directly, and maybe not every lesson will have a mentor. These are things that the protagonist is learning. This is things that are causing them to look at the world in a different light. This is Kiki having to learn to manage her finances and her time. This is Link learning how to fight. This is Harry going to classes. Basically, it's them growing up. And then the epiphany is going to be the climax. It usually has a big choice or a big revelation that happens. So this is the guilty verdict. This is having to make the choice to either save your friend and doom an entire town, or doom your friend and save your entire town. This is that choice where everything that they've been building up to, all of the lessons, all of the mentors, all of the growing up, they have to make this choice. This is where it's going to have far long-reaching consequences. And then that brings us to that decision getting made. Now on the downturn from the climax is your maturity. You're going to show how the protagonist's outlook has changed from that action, how it has changed their way of thinking or seeing the world. I do highly recommend looking up. There are some really, really good breakdowns of Bildungsromans on YouTube. I'm trying to find one so I can tell you. All right, I'm not finding a role. You can find like breakdowns of things like this on YouTube if you want to have more. You can also read through books and break them down yourself. You're going to find a lot of Bildungsromans in the what we call middle grade and young adult fiction. It's a very popular genre. Not every coming of age novel is a Bildungsroman, but all Bildungsromans are coming of age novels. I have broken them down into what a Bildungsroman is. You have the catalyst, the journey, the epiphany, and maturity. Some other coming of age stories may be slightly different, may have a different beat, but this is the bare bones basic of what a Bildungsroman is. So thank you all for listening to me talk for 45 minutes about this topic. Put any questions you have in the comments and I will get to them as soon as I can. Thank you. Lecture for this month. Next month's lecture is going to be on how to pick an editor, and that is going to be on the 9th of September.